What's up, guys? Welcome and welcome back to my channel. So if this behind you is bothering you because it's not straight, just try and ignore it, just because like I've been looking at it in the camera and I did not know that when I was doing it, like it was just off. But then like afterwards I realized that's why this one is straight and this one is also straight. But anyway, if it's annoying you too much, sorry. But that's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about something that has really been annoying me, but I decided to ignore. But then recently, my friend was talking about a book that she was reading or she's reading, and I don't know the name of the book, but it's not a published book. But it doesn't really matter if it's not a published book. I'm pretty sure there are published books like that out there. So basically, in the book, and this is an extreme case, I know, but I just want to start with that because that's really what got me going. In the book, the main character's love interest is the son of the vice president or something like that, or the president, and he wants her, but she doesn't even know he exists or something like that. I mean, like, she knows he exists because he's a famous person, but she doesn't know him. But anyways, he wants her, and so he tells his parents or whatever, and then they get them married, and then the consummation of their marriage is for him to rape her, have sex with her in front of her parents and his parents, but because it was non-consensual. And apparently the author wants us to root for that guy because he has daddy issues. What? What? I'm sorry. How do you expect me to root for someone that has no respect for their love? Like how do you plan on playing that, making that a romantic story? How do you have the audacity to label that as romance? How? And so it just really pissed me off, and then I guess it reminded me of all the stupid books I read when I was a teenager, like early in my not even like when I was a teenager, but also early on in my teenage years. And I'm so grateful to God that they did not warp my sense of love and my sense of what a real relationship should be like, because I read some pretty stupid and disgusting and toxic things. And this is no hate to Anatole, but After is a very, very, very toxic book. And this is no hate to Stephanie, I don't even know if that's her name, the author of Twilight. But Twilight is also a very toxic book, and I'm pretty sure E.L. James, is that her name? The author of 50 Shades knows that 50 Shades is toxic, so we don't even need to mention her. But there's so many books out there, and honestly, when I wanted to make this video, it was going to be about how Wattpad needs to do a better job of regulating and keeping the young people on the platform safe, because they're getting recommended all sorts of stupid books. And sure, the author can say,
"This book is not for young people. Viewer discretion is advised."
but like, children are children, and whether or not we like to admit it, teenagers are also children, and children do whatever they want. That's why they need adults. I feel like teenagers are worse than children, because not only do they do whatever they want, but they also think that they are smart. So those two things just equals foolishness. Like, kids aren't foolish, they're just kids, but teenagers are pretty foolish. And so you telling a teenager, oh, don't read this because you're not 18, is just going to make the teenager more intrigued. And I'm saying this because when I was a teenager, when I was 13, when I was 14, 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, I was reading things I shouldn't be reading on Wattpad because they were available to me. And as much as I knew I should not be reading this, there was nothing to stop me from reading it. And I really think that that is a problem. I read through Wattpad's community guidelines and blah blah blah. I read through all their policies, everything. I read through it, and they claim, just like YouTube claims, that they care about the people on the platform and they want to keep them safe and yada yada yada. But I know that I have seen many stories that feature many things that are supposed to be banned. And just like on YouTube, I've seen many videos that are not supposed to be on, but the things that actually don't have a problem, they get banned or they get removed just because That's a story for another day. But my point is, Wattpad and other communities or other apps or whatever need to do better in regulating what kids have access to. Because, like it or not, they will view it and they will read it. And this is the point of this video. We all need to do better in protecting our kids and making them understand that after the relationship between Tessa and Hardin, between Bella and what's his name? Edward. 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 Between Bella and Edward is not something to aspire to. It's not. All those bad boy cliches. Stop it. You're romanticizing toxic relationships and it's disgusting. It is very, very disgusting. We should not and we cannot make that okay for children. And people might be like, wow, what's my business? I didn't ask the child to read it. I didn't ask the teenager to read it. It's not my responsibility to put out a role model. Um, First of all, you obviously just became an adult. Like you were born an adult because if you remember when you were a child, you were very impressionable, and what you read and what you heard and what you watched played a big role in how you formed yourself. That's why if you continuously swear around a child, that child is gonna swear. If you continuously swear around me, if you continuously swear around anybody, they are going to start swearing. That's just how life works. That's how the brain works. It's called conditioning. We are conditioning girls to stay in toxic relationships because it's romantic, and we are conditioning boys to abuse their love because they're staying. You're literally creating toxic men and dependent females. Like I don't, you're manufacturing toxic relationships, and the more you manufacture toxic relationships, the more toxic relationships are going to be shown because it's like the realistic thing, but it's not realistic. It's not. I don't know why I did this 3 times and I'm only going to do it twice. It's not realistic, and we need to stop portraying it as such. I am an avid reader. I've been reading since I could read. And I have read, I don't know how many novels I've read. Not I've read like novels, breezed through them, read them, digested them, enjoyed them, and there are some that I have wanted to regurgitate because they're just nasty. After I've tried to read After series, I've tried like 3 times to read it. I just couldn't. Just like I couldn't get through the movies. But I am glad that the movies show how toxic Tessa and Hardin are because they are disgustingly toxic. Hardin is a disgusting individual. And Edward, I also could never quite read Twilight. Edward, and don't get me wrong, I understand that these are like popular fiction or whatever, but I read popular fiction, but I don't care if the book is popular. If the book is popular, I will try and read it. But if it just doesn't go down, it's just not gonna go down. And as long as it engages the mind, as far as I'm concerned, it's good literature. That's why I like Harry Potter. Because despite the fact that it's for kids, and Percy Jackson, despite the fact that it is for kids, it is good literature. Do you know what good literature is? Let me just look up the definition for you so that you know that I'm not trying to be like, oh, what Nadia says is the final say. No, 50 Shades of Grey is terrible literature. After is terrible literature. I cannot speak for Twilight because I have not read Twilight, but I do know that the relationship between Edward and Bella is toxic. The fact that he was watching her sleep, creeping into her house, sorry, breaking into her house and watching her sleep before they even started dating is scary. Like, please imagine that in real life. Is that the guy you're gonna be like,
Yeah, I want to get married to you. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's it. Sneak into my bedroom, break into my house, sneak into my bedroom, watch me sleep. You're speaking my language. Wow.
no, no, no? And then when they broke up, she literally tried to kill herself just so she could hear his voice. Like, what? Why are we playing this off as normal? Why? Why? I don't care about Edward's point of view. Let me tell you something. If you don't know that she just released that just for the sake of getting money, I don't know what to say to you. Great literature makes us see or think things we never did before. Literature should have good style and grammar. It should sound genuine. I don't know if you've read 50 Shades, but there's nothing genuine about the way they talk. It is the most it's so bad. I don't know how I read all three books, but it's so bad. Good literature is when it makes you think and feel. I mean, sure. As much as After and 50 Shades makes me think and feel, it's not positive things. It makes me think and feel. It makes me think, why am I reading this book and putting myself through this suffering? And it makes me feel anger and probably slight depression at, again, putting myself in the situation where I have to read such things. But talking about bad literature, I'm actually willing to read bad literature just to review because I feel like that would be fun. Because for some weird reason, I like to frustrate myself, clearly. So if you have any other bad literature apart from After, because I am not reading the After series, leave it in the comment section. I would love, not particularly love, but love to review it. Not just leave it in the comment section. Back to the point of this video. Stop romanticizing toxic relationships. Sexual abuse is not the only way a relationship can be toxic. If you don't know that, Nadia is here to tell you. Abuse verbally is toxic. Should we pull up some examples from the After series? Let's do that. This is no hate to Anna Todd. This is not because as a writer I'm just jealous that her book has more reads than mine. Look, the only reason that After and even 50 Shades was so popular, is because they're fan fiction. If you don't know what fan fiction is, I don't know if you're a reader. Fan fiction is a genre of work where when a fan writes a story based on what they're fanning about. So I'm a fan of Avengers, so I write a story based on the Avengers. That's fan fiction. 50 Shades of Grey was based on Twilight. And the fact that E.L. James, if that's her real name, I don't remember, the fact that she could see those themes of abuse and toxicity and portrayed it in her book, even though she also tried to play it off as romantic, is just funny to me. After is a fan fiction, but it's based on One Direction, and One Direction is like, that balloon over there is not for One Direction, but I left it there. It was 1 and 2, 2 and 1 for my 21st birthday, but I left it there because I was thinking, when I was rearranging my room, I was like, oh, I really miss One Direction. One Direction is, even though they're no longer together, they're one of the biggest boy bands ever. So she writes a book on an upcoming platform. I think Wattpad was created in 2011 or 2012, and After came out in 2013. Obviously, all the One Direction fangirls are gonna flock to this book, and it has 500 million reads. Like, no joke. And like I said, it's not because I, as an author, I'm like jealous or whatever. I'm really not. My book is difficult to find on Wattpad because the Christian genre, because my book is Christian fiction that I just published. But anyways, Christian contemporary fiction is gonna be hard to find because if you search Christian, you're gonna find Christian Grey fan fiction and other Christian Grey wannabes that take the name Christian and just put it in for another bad boy and just manufacture the same thing and then claim it's not fan fiction. But you know, Wattpad is just not bothered to create a Christian fiction genre because apparently books like that don't exist. And I say that because I've been on Wattpad since its beginning, and I know that they've created new genres as different books have come out, but they're just not bothered, I guess. That's a topic for another day. I have read so many books on Wattpad that don't even have, like, there's this book, Rosehead. It's my favorite book ever on Wattpad. And I'm telling you, this book is amazing. Amazing. Like, no joke. If you have Wattpad, go and check it out. It's not romance. It's fantasy. It's really, really amazing. And it's so original. All those bad boy books and high like YA books, they're so manufactured and unoriginal. This is great fiction and it's so original, and it doesn't even have up to 1 million reads. It has 500,000 reads. Meanwhile, Toxic Harden and so many other toxic bad boys are garnering tens of millions of hundreds and millions of reads. What message are you portraying to the new readers, to the young readers that are coming on the platform? And this isn't only for Wattpad, but I had Webtoon for a second and I was like, no. Because I found the same thing. I was being recommended sexual stuff that I had no interest in. And it just makes me so scared because when your younger sibling is on the app, you're just like, God, please don't let them come across this type of thing. Don't let, because there's no restriction, there's no regulation to what they are being recommended. There isn't. These apps, you sign up with an email. They don't ask for an age until you're like customizing your profile, but you can just put your email, put your username, put a password, and then start reading whatever you want. There has to be regulations in place as far as I am concerned. So I wanted to search the toxic, how Harden is toxic, because I don't understand how some people don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. Right off the bat, the fact that he got with her because she hurt his ego or whatever, and the fact that he got with her for revenge and he bet on stealing her virginity is in and of itself just the biggest red flag. And she found out. Like, I understand not finding out. You know what? No. The fact that I think it was the day she moved into her dorm, and she got back from the community showers and he was in the room and she was like, excuse me, can you please leave? And he was like, no, it's not like you have anything I want to look at anyway. First of all, the fact that he did not respect her enough to leave. Second of all, the fact that he had to insult her, like, oh, you don't have anything. Okay, that's not necessary. That's disrespectful. And please get out of my room. Like, get out. I can't imagine, like, I'm really trying to imagine a guy in my college dorm when I'm trying to change and I'm like, leave, and he's like, no, like, I'm not interested in your body anyway. I don't care. Leave. I don't care if you're not interested in what I have to offer. Leave. And he's like, no. I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's my boo. That's my babe. I'm really trying to understand. I just found a site called Debunking After. It's a Tumblr account. That's so funny. Let's see what they have on the site. This video has kind of turned into after attack, but like, it's really not. That's the newest literature that's out there that is like super super toxic, but there's so many more, and I just want to mention all of them, like all the different themes of toxicity in After, so that if you see it in any other book, these are red flags and I should run away, especially if you see it in real life. It's not romantic, it's not romance, it's toxic and it is unhealthy. So let's look at the Tumblr post, shall we? Analyzing After, just a blog to display everything that's problematic in the After series by Anna Todd, and also provide support to those who have been victims of abuse. What does it mean to romanticize? To make romantic, invest with a romantic character, if you didn't know that before. Chapter 22. This is me reading from the site, and this is the person taken from the book. She expresses her fear of being physically abused by Harden, and it's not just his rough grabbing, it goes beyond that. Quote, he removes one hand from my wrist, but the other is large enough to hold both. For a second, I think he might slap me. I haven't read the books in so long, but me just reading this angers me. Please, if you ever think your boyfriend or even your girlfriend is gonna slap you, please exit that relationship fast. Faster than I can say fast. Please leave. Because at first it just starts off with them breaking things around you, and then it starts and then it moves on to them like slapping you. And then they might, oh, apologize, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, blah 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 blah. it's gonna progress, and at the end of the day they might just end up killing you. Like, that might sound exaggerated or whatever, but things happen in stages, and they don't just start at the large scale. They start little and they grow. If you tolerate little, they're gonna give you more. Please, if you ever feel unsafe in a relationship, exit. We cannot allow books to make young girls and anybody else reading it think that it is okay for their partner to physically or verbally or mentally mess with them. It is not okay. So let's keep reading. Hardin says these to Tessa. Don't say that. Don't you dare leave me. I can easily find out where you are. It's not funny, right? I'm laughing at how crazy this is because I've had it at the back of my mind that After is toxic, but I haven't read it in so long that I am actually shook at how disgusting this is. If a guy threatens me that I shouldn't leave because he's gonna find me and do what? Yeah, that is scaring someone to stay in a relationship, and I can't say that I would leave because that is scary. Especially when I know the person is a violent person. The only way I could leave is like if I leave the state, if I leave the country, because that is very, very scary. Or I have some sort of evidence to go to the police. But at that point where someone threatens you that if you leave that something will happen to you, they've probably already made you dependent on them. They've probably already built this emotional tie to them that if you leave, like Bella when Edward left, she felt like she was gonna die. They probably already built you up like that. They probably gaslighted you so much, like Rapunzel and Mother Gothel, that you feel like you're nothing without them. And so you would most likely not leave. Tessa's point of view. Hardin screams and his fist connects with the wall, cracking and crumbling the drywall. I don't know what to say because I can't tell if he's telling the truth. He has played so many mind games with me since the beginning that I can't tell what is real. Please, 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 please. I will kneel down and beg you right now. If you're in this type of relationship, please get out and get help. Please. This is not romantic. How are people reading this book and thinking that it is romantic? How? How? Have we seriously brainwashed people so far that this is romantic? What the heck? The most frustrating part of my relationship with Hardin is that I'm never sure what I'm allowed to tell other people. That right there, everything. Like, if you feel like you can't tell your friends or your emotional, first of all, you can't have one person as your emotional support. You can't. No, no. Yes, let your partner be your emotional support, but if they're emotionally abusive, you have to have other forms of emotional support. And if you can't tell those people what your partner is doing, Alex Mayers, where's your red flag banner? Like, I need it flying across the screen. What? How is this romantic? Jesus Christ. Look, if you don't know if you're in a toxic relationship, I'm gonna put a link in the description box for you to take, like, I think it's like a quiz to help you find out if your partner is toxic. And I know it's not easy to leave a toxic relationship. It's not. It's not easy to leave any relationship where you have grown dependent on the person. But you have to. Even if they don't kill you physically. And honestly, this is not me taking the word kill lightly. Even if they don't kill you physically, they would destroy you emotionally, that you're gonna be a shell of yourself. For example, in the book series A Kotar, The Court of Thorns and Roses, it's not a toxic book. The first book, spoiler if you've never read it, the first book is between the main character, his name I don't remember, and the Ferry of Spring. I'm just gonna call him the Ferry of Spring because I don't I don't remember. And their relationship is cute. He's not a bad boy. He's a sweet person, and it's very Beauty and the Beast. And I know a lot of people say Beauty and the Beast is toxic, but he actually wasn't toxic towards her. He didn't have all those outbursts and like abuse her and stuff. So he was not toxic. That's fine. In the second book, the Fairy of the Night and stars. The Fairy of the Night and Stars. I think I'm actually kind of right. Like that's not what they're called, but the first he it actually is for the night and the stars, and then the other one is for the sun, and then there's the four seasons. Yes, I am right. The Fairy for the Night and Stars likes her, I guess, or whatever. Okay, no, let me try this again. The Fairy of the Spring in the second book and the main character have been through like this terrible ordeal, and so they're dealing with it in their own way, and then their relationship gets toxic. See, the thing is, some people aren't toxic, but circumstances can make them toxic. And just because it's circumstances that make them toxic doesn't mean that it is okay. So the Fairy of the Spring decides that he's so scared of losing the main character that he decides to lock her in the house. And even though he can see that she's claustrophobic now and scared of being alone, and she's dealing with all these new things because she has been turned into a fairy and she has these powers that she doesn't know how to handle, and she died and came back, and they never talk about all these things, and she's going through so many emotional turmoil, and he it's not like he doesn't care, but he's going through his own thing, and suddenly he turns into this brooding person, and they never talk about anything. He just sleeps with her consensually, yes, but then he just leaves. And then she sometimes when they're in the same bed and she's like throwing off after a nightmare, he doesn't do anything. Their relationship becomes super super toxic, and the author, thank you so much, does not, like, I'm thanking the author, does not play it off as romantic. They play it off as she needs to get out of here because this is no longer good for her. It's no longer good for any of them. And sure, they were good for each other before, but people and circumstances change people and they're no longer good for each other. And so they go their separate ways. That is what it should be. Your partner might not have been toxic in the beginning, but something happened and now they are not good for you. It doesn't mean particularly Harden is a bad person, I'm just saying that, but it doesn't mean that the person is a bad person. It just means that they are not good for you. And it means that they have to deal with their own things to not be toxic towards other people. Because a lot of times when people go through something and they don't know how to handle it, they become abusive towards their loved ones. And that is toxic. If you're not the person's sister, mother, brother, father, you're not obligated. If you're their wife, there's a certain level that you are obligated. But if you are not, if you are a girlfriend, if you are a boyfriend, you are not obligated to stay in that relationship when it is affecting your mental health, your peace of mind, and your own self, because you will deteriorate. And that is what happened in the second A Court of Thunder Roses. I think it was Mist and Fury. Court of Thunder Roses. I think it's Mist and Fury. That is what happened. She literally started degrading. She wasn't eating because it was just a mess. So before I just keep rambling on and on and on, because this is a rant video, please, 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 as authors, we need to stop glorifying toxic relationships. It does not mean you have to write a cheesy romance book, but please, if you're gonna write romance, write something that people should aspire to. It doesn't have to be cheesy, but write something that people should aspire to and people would want to work towards because they can see that that's a good thing. I don't care how much you tell me that it's not your job to make people inspired. You're writing a story. You're creating images in people's heads. You're creating something that people are going to constantly think about. You're conditioning people, whether or not you want to believe it. You're conditioning people. So as writers, we need to do a better job of portraying relationships. I'm not saying toxic relationships shouldn't be written. Like, I'm literally not saying that, because that's why I referenced A Court of Thunder Roses, the series, where a toxic relationship was written, or it was written in such a way that it wasn't romanticized. Case study B, After, where it was romanticized. That is what we should not do. If we're gonna write a toxic book, I mean a book where there's a toxic relationship, we should write them going separate ways. Not coming together and working it out even though they're still toxic. No. Separate ways, please. So as readers, generally you have to be careful what you read. So I'm talking to all the teenagers and young adults out there. You have to be careful what you read. Because it's the same way you have to be careful about the stuff you watch and what you listen to. It's gonna affect you. Whether or not you believe it, it's gonna affect you. And Wattpad and Webtoons and every other platform, please, you need to do a better job of protecting younger viewers and younger readers, because you are exposing them to certain things that they don't need to be exposed to, and therefore you are conditioning them to accept certain things that should not be accepted. Thank you so much for coming to my TED Talk. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you don't agree with me, tell me why. If you agree with me, tell me why. Make sure to subscribe because I have a lot of stuff coming. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.